This story is a fictional narrative inspired by real-life emotions and everyday experiences. Have you ever woken up at 3 a.m. because your phone was ringing, and the second you saw the name on the screen, you just knew your life was about to change? That happened to me on a Saturday night that started out totally normal. I was dead asleep. I'd been up until 2 a.m. working on some dumb logo for a picky client. By the time I finally fell into bed, I was so tired I didn't even bother taking off my jeans. I just tossed my phone somewhere on the pillow and passed out. Then my phone started buzzing. Not just a little buzz, it was going crazy. Long vibrations over and over. Brr, 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 brr. It was so annoying. I kept my eyes squeezed shut, just feeling around for it with my hand, mumbling, "Hello? Hello?" My eyes were still glued shut. My hair was a total mess, and I probably had pillow marks all over my face. I glanced at the little clock on my mini fridge, 3:07 a.m. I was about to just turn it off, throw it to the foot of the bed, and ignore whoever it was. But my eyes happened to glance at the screen. One name, Emma. I shot straight up in bed. Emma and I have been best friends since middle school. 10 years. In 10 years, she had never called me at 3 a.m. Never. We call each other at 3 p.m., at 8 p.m., sometimes at 11 p.m. But 3 a.m.? No way. So at that moment, my heart started pounding like a drum. I answered, "Hello?" Silence. For a few seconds, all I could hear was breathing. Then a sniffle. A tiny little sob, like she was trying really hard to hold it in, but couldn't. "Hello, Em, what's wrong?" My voice was all croaky from just waking up, like a broken speaker. "Emma, talk to me." On the other end, Emma whispered, I just left him." I blinked. I thought I was dreaming. I pinched my leg. Ouch, not a dream. "Left who? What are you talking about?" "David?" I said really fast, my brain finally waking up. "Did you guys have a fight? Are you mad at each other? What happened?" He texted me that he cheated on me. He confessed. Then he went to sleep. I left his place and came home. Emma's voice sounded so weird. Not crying exactly. It was shaky and hollow. It was the voice of someone who just got slapped in the face, and it hurt so bad they went numb, not even able to cry yet. Hearing her voice sent a chill down my spine. It was like she wasn't my Emma anymore. She was a different person, like a ghost. "Where are you right now?" I asked, already jumping out of bed. "At home." "Stay right there, I'm coming over." I didn't ask anything else. I hung up and just grabbed the first jacket I found, an old, baggy gray hoodie I sleep in. I shoved my feet into my sneakers without even tying the laces. My mom was in the next room and must have heard me. She called out, "Alex, where are you going at this hour?" I just yelled back, "Going to Emma's, it's an emergency," and slammed the door. She said something else, but I was already gone. I ran down the stairs, jumped in my car, started the engine, and hit the gas. The streets at 3 a.m. are so empty, like scary empty. The streetlights were all yellow, making these little pools of light on the road. Not a single person, and not a single car. Just me and the stoplights, changing colors automatically, like nobody even needed to be there. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. In my head, I kept seeing pictures of Emma and David. 3 years. 3 years they were together. All those check-in photos at restaurants, at the park, at the beach. All those sweet posts. "Thank you for being in my life. Love you more every day." All the times we all hung out together, David with his arm around Emma, Emma smiling so bright. It couldn't be true. I pressed the gas pedal harder. Then I suddenly remembered, last month, David actually told me he wanted to marry Emma. He was saving up for a ring. He even asked me, "Hey, what kind of ring do you think Emma would like?" "Just a small diamond. I've only been working for 2 years. I don't have much saved up yet." And now, I slammed on the brakes at a red light. Even though the street was empty, I stopped. My head was spinning. I looked over at the passenger seat where Emma always sits when I drive her anywhere. I suddenly wished so badly she was sitting there, laughing and talking instead of being at home with that hollow voice on the phone. The light turned green. I hit the gas again. I screeched to a halt in front of Emma's apartment building. I ran up the stairs. No elevator. She's on the 4th floor. I ran huffing and puffing, my feet hurting because my shoes weren't tied. I banged on her door over and over. "Emma, it's me, open up." The door opened. Emma stood there. Her face was all scrunched up. Her eyes were red and puffy but dry. She was still wearing the dress she'd gone out in last night. A light blue, flowery dress. all wrinkled, her hair a mess. She looked at me, her lips trembling, but she didn't say anything. She just pointed at her phone on the table. I stepped inside. The room was pitch black, no lights on, just the glow from the phone screen on the table, making a dim little circle of light. I leaned down to look. On the screen was a text from David. "I'm sorry I cheated on you. I don't know what else to say. If you want to break up, I understand." I read it over and over. Each time I felt something different. First, shock. Second, disbelief. Third, anger. Fourth, this huge, painful lump in my throat for Emma. I looked up at her. She was still standing there, arms hanging loose at her sides, just staring at me like a lost little kid. She looked so small. My Emma, my smart, calm friend, who always knew how to make everyone else feel better, now just standing there like a shadow. I sat down on the chair, didn't say anything. I just held out my arm. "Come here." She walked over. I wrapped my arms around her. And that's when Emma finally started to cry. Not those little sniffles from the phone. Real crying. Huge, heaving sobs. Like a little kid who just lost the most precious thing in the world. She held onto me so tight, her face buried in my shoulder, her whole body shaking. I just sat there, holding her, feeling her tears soak through my hoodie, cold and wet on my shoulder. The room was dark. All you could hear was her crying, and the glow from that phone screen still showing that stupid, awful text. I held her, feeling her shoulders shake, and I kept asking myself, what did that stupid David do to my best friend of 10 years? After she stopped crying, we just sat there in the dark, drinking cold tea and told each other about all the things we'd kept quiet about for the past 3 years. And I realized I was part of the problem too. The room was still dark. Emma was curled up on the chair holding a cup of tea I'd made for her. The tea had gone cold a while ago, but she was still holding it, like it was something warm in the cold air from the AC. I was sitting on the floor, my back against the leg of her chair, staring out the window at the dim streetlight. I started thinking back. Last month, our whole group went out for hot pot, our usual Japanese place on the corner. We were at the back table. Emma sat next to David. I sat across from them. The pot was bubbling away with thin slices of beef, enoki mushrooms, tofu. Emma kept putting food in David's bowl, meat, mushrooms, veggies. His bowl was always piled high. David was eating, but he kept looking at his phone. Not just glancing. He had it under the table, his eyes looking down, his thumb scrolling. Every once in a while, he'd smile to himself. Emma noticed and asked quietly, "What's so funny?" David looked up, all casual. "Oh, the guys in the group chat are sending memes?" Then he'd look back down. At the time, I thought it was a little weird, but I looked at Emma, and she was still smiling, still putting food in his bowl, still being sweet. I told myself, "You're overthinking it. He's her boyfriend. You've known her for 10 years. She's the smartest one in the group. She knows what she's doing." I looked down at my bowl, grabbed a piece of meat, ate it, and forgot all about it. I was lost in my memory when Emma's voice came out of the dark, soft and quiet, like a whisper. "There's a lot you don't know, Alex." I looked up at her. She was still holding her tea, staring into space. The darkness covered half her face, and the light from the street made her look like a black and white photo. "Tell me," I said. So Emma told me. The times he went on business trips on weekends, he said it was with his boss, with clients. One time I video called him at 10 p.m. He didn't pick up. He didn't text until 2 a.m. Back at the hotel, I was so tired I fell asleep. She stopped, took a sip of her cold tea. I saw her hand shaking a little. The girls he followed online, all of them in bikinis with perfect bodies posing on beaches by pools, he liked their photos and commented stuff like, "So pretty, amazing." I bit my lip. Without thinking, I started biting my nail. I always do that when I'm nervous. I asked him about it once, Emma went on, her voice still flat, like she was reading from an old book. I said, "Why do you always like those girls' pictures?" He looked at me, all wide-eyed, acting so surprised. Then he said, "They're just college friends, co-workers. You know I'm outgoing. I have hundreds of friends online. It's normal to like their pictures. Don't be so petty." Petty. Hearing that word made my blood boil. That word is like a gag. If you ask again, you're being petty. If you don't trust him, you're the one with the problem. If you feel uncomfortable, it's your fault. And then he said, Emma continued, gripping her cup so tight her knuckles turned white, "A relationship needs trust. If you don't trust me, then we can't be together." I just sat there. In my head, I could see Emma hearing those words, telling herself, "It's probably just me overthinking." I know Emma. She hates making people mad, hates being judged, hates being seen as difficult. She loved David. She wanted to make it work, so she just closed her eyes to it all. I bit my nail again. And then another memory came flooding back, also about David, but this time with me. I remembered one time I posted a picture on Instagram. It was me, in a dress, at a friend's wedding. A few hours later, I got a private message on Facebook from David. "You look so pretty. That dress looks great on you. Hope you had fun." At the time, I thought it was weird. I frowned at the message. David and I didn't really text each other privately. We'd see each other in person, talk in the group, that was it. For him to randomly message me, complimenting my dress, it felt off. I thought about screenshotting it and sending it to Emma, but then I stopped. I thought, he's just being overly friendly. Or maybe I'm just being sensitive. If I tell Emma, she might think I'm judging her boyfriend. I'll be the one causing drama. I replied like, "Thanks, it was fun." Then I put my phone down and forgot about it. Until now. I sat there on the floor, gripping my jeans, feeling this thing rise up in my chest. It wasn't anger at David anymore. It was anger at myself. How many times did I see things? How many times did I stay quiet? I looked up at Emma. She was still sitting there completely still, like a statue. "I'm part of this too," I said, my voice all rough. "There were things I saw, but I never told you." Emma looked at me. Her eyes were so strange. Not blaming, not surprised, just waiting. "David once sent me a private message, complimenting me in a dress," I said, swallowing hard. At the time, it felt weird, but I thought I was just overthinking it. "I never told you." Emma nodded, slowly. "Yeah, he's good. He knows how to make everything seem normal, so you end up thinking you're the crazy one for noticing something's wrong." She put her cup down on the table. The ceramic hit the wood with a sharp thunk in the quiet room. Then she looked me right in the eye. For the first time since I'd gotten there, she looked at me like that. "You know," Emma said, her voice suddenly clear, not shaky anymore, "that night he confessed I didn't cry because I was sad. I cried because I realized for 3 whole years I'd been lying to myself. I knew something was off. I saw the looks, the texts hidden under the table, the business trips where he never called back. But I kept trying to believe his words. I was scared that if I asked more questions, if I doubted him, I'd be the bad guy, the crazy, controlling girlfriend." I looked at my friend. In Emma's eyes, I saw something different. Not weakness. It was awareness. A scary, clear-eyed awareness after the shock. Like she'd just woken up from a long dream and was finally seeing everything clearly for the first time. "I didn't cry because I lost him," Emma said, pressing her lips together. "I cried because I felt so stupid." I didn't say anything. I just sat there watching her, letting her words sink into me like water into dry ground. At the time, I didn't really understand what that look in her eyes meant. It was only later that I realized. It was the look of someone who just woke up after 3 years of being asleep. And once you wake up, you can never go back to sleep again. The next morning, the sun came up, the birds were singing, and the world's biggest jerk immediately started his "Make Myself the Victim" campaign. We hadn't even had breakfast yet when her phone started ringing off the hook. I woke up on Emma's couch, my whole body stiff. My neck hurt so bad, like someone had twisted it. I looked around and saw Emma sitting at the table, staring out the window. She'd changed into her old pajamas, her hair in a loose ponytail. On the table were 2 cups of coffee I'd just made, still steaming. Before I could even say anything, Emma's phone rang. And we both looked at the screen, one name, David. Emma looked at me. I looked at Emma. The air in the room got thick. Emma slowly reached for her phone and then, out of nowhere, she hit answer and put it on speaker. She set the phone down on the table, right between the 2 coffee cups. "Baby." David's voice filled the quiet room. It was all croaky, like he'd just woken up, but there was something so fake about it, like a bad actor doing a tragedy scene. "I'm so sorry about last night. I was so drunk. I don't even remember what I wrote." Emma was silent. Her face was totally blank. She just stared at the phone like it was a cockroach. "Emma, you there?" David's voice sounded a little nervous now. "I just want you to know, I love you. Those other girls are just friends. I didn't mean anything by it. I just drank too much last night and wrote stupid stuff." I looked at Emma. "Are you just going to let him keep talking like that?" But Emma stayed quiet. She picked up her coffee, took a slow sip, so calm. The silence dragged on and David's voice changed. This time, it wasn't croaky anymore. He sounded totally awake. "Besides, you're kind of part of the problem, too." I sat up straight. "Wait, what?" "Lately, you're always busy with school, busy with work. You never have time for me. I got lonely, so I found people to talk to. Every guy has needs, you know? We all need to feel wanted." I gripped my coffee cup so hard. This feeling of wanting to smash something into someone's face just rose up in my chest. I looked at Emma. Her face was still cold, but the corner of her mouth was twitching. She was trying so hard to hold it together. I could tell because I've known her for 10 years. You're not saying anything? Are you mad at me? I said I'm sorry, okay? David's voice was getting annoyed now. But you gotta understand, those girls are just friends. So I like their pictures, so what? It's not like I slept with them. I put my coffee cup down. Thunk, I reached for the phone. Emma looked at me, eyes wide. She shook her head, just a little. Don't. But I couldn't hold it in anymore. I grabbed the phone right out of her hand. I took a deep breath. In my head, I saw my dad the day he left me and my mom. The words he said, "Your mother just doesn't understand me." I was so lonely. Every guy has needs. Exactly the same, word for word. I looked at the phone screen where David was still lit up. And then I said, my voice shaking with anger, "David, it's me, Alex." The other end went quiet for a second. I heard him breathe and then his voice, all soft now. "Oh, Alex, hey, let me talk to Emma." "No," I cut him off. "You listen to me. I'm only saying this once." "Alex, just calm down." You listen to me!" I was practically screaming. "You just admitted you cheated, then blamed her for not paying enough attention to you and said all those half-naked girls on Instagram are just friends. Do you even hear yourself? Alex, you need to chill. You don't understand what's going on between us." His voice sounded like he was trying to calm down a wild animal. "I understand one thing. You're a piece of garbage." Silence. I could hear him breathing hard on the other end. "And from now on, don't you ever text or call Emma again." My voice was cold now, not shaking anymore. "If you bother her one more time, I will drag all your dirty little secrets out into the open." "I see everything, David. You think you're so good at hiding stuff? I have a friend who works in IT. You know that? One click and I'll dig up all your fake accounts and all your little girlfriends." I hung up. My hands were shaking like crazy. I threw the phone down on the couch like it was poisoned. My heart was pounding in my chest. I was breathing heavy, like I'd just run a race. Then I turned to look at Emma. Emma was still sitting there, but the corner of her mouth was starting to curl up. And then she smiled, a weird smile, sad and satisfied and like she couldn't believe what just happened all at the same time. "You just said all that to him?" Emma whispered. "Yep," I said, my hands still shaking. "I said it. What? Are you mad?" Emma shook her head. Then suddenly she covered her face with her hands. I thought she was crying. But no, she was laughing. Laughing so hard tears came out. Laughing, her shoulders shaking, tears streaming down her face. It was a laugh I'd never heard from her in 10 years. "I'm not mad," Emma said, between laughs and sobs. I wish I'd been strong enough to say those words 3 years ago." She took her hands away from her face and looked at me. Her eyes were red, but there was something bright in them. A light I hadn't seen in Emma for 3 whole years. I sat down next to her on the couch. Didn't say anything, just sat there, shoulder to shoulder. The room was quiet, just the sound of us breathing and the occasional car outside. I felt this huge weight lift off my chest, like I'd finally done something right that I should have done a long time ago. But I also knew this was just the beginning. I looked out the window. The sun was high. A new day was starting. And out there, David was definitely not the type to just give up. He'd keep acting. He'd keep calling, texting, posting sad stories online, telling everyone he was misunderstood, that he was the real victim. I knew it. My dad did the exact same thing. I thought I'd just ended the story with that epic hang-up. I had no idea that was just the opening act of a much longer play, and David had a lot more tricks up his sleeve. A few days passed. We thought things were calming down, until one of our mutual friends pulled me aside and whispered, "Did you know David has a secret Instagram account?" That's when I knew I had to get involved. 3 days. 3 days since that phone call, and Emma had barely left her house. She took time off from school, from her coffee shop job. I still went to work, but every afternoon I'd go over, bring food, sit with her until night. She talked less, but she wasn't crying anymore, just sat there drinking tea, staring out the window. I thought everything was settling down. Then Wednesday afternoon, I ran into Sarah at the coffee shop near my work. Sarah's a friend from college, sometimes hung out in the same group as Emma and David. She pulled me aside, looked around, and whispered, "Did you know David has a secret Instagram account?" I was holding my coffee and almost dropped it. "What?" "I saw it the other day. He liked a photo of my friend." I clicked on it, and the account has no profile picture, but it follows all these hot girls, like, the kind of photos. Sarah made a face. "I thought you should know. How's Emma doing?" I swallowed. "She's okay." But inside I was on fire. That night, I called Mike. Mike's my best friend from high school, a total IT nerd. He's on his computer all day, his eyes are all bad from staring at screens, but he's a genius with tech stuff. He's super chill and always helps his friends, the kind of guy you just ask, and he says, okay, without even asking why. Yo, Alex, it's late. Why aren't you out partying? Mike's voice came through the phone, mixed with the sound of his keyboard clicking. You busy? Need your help with something? I'm always free. What's up? I took a breath. I need you to dig up info on David, Emma's ex-boyfriend. There was a pause, then Mike laughed. Dig up what? Catching a cheater? He owe money? Yeah, something like that. Cheating on my friend? I think he has a secret account. Help me dig through all his social media. Mike whistled. Let's do this. Come to my place. Bring snacks. This needs pizza and beer. 30 minutes later, I was at Mike's apartment. He lives alone in this tiny room full of computer screens and cables. On the table were 2 hot pizzas and a case of beer. Mike sat in front of his computers, hands on the keyboard, eyes all lit up like a hunter who'd just spotted prey. Okay, show me what you got, he said, all excited. I pulled out my phone and gave him David's name, phone number, and main Instagram account. Mike typed away, scrolling, totally focused. I sat next to him, biting my nails, eyes glued to the screen. 15 minutes later, Mike let out a long whistle. Whoa, this guy's something else. Look at this. He turned the screen toward me. A secret Instagram account popped up. Username, DavidPrivate23. Profile picture was a red rose, no face. Posts, 0. Followers, 120. Following, 534. I looked at the list of people he was following, and ice went down my spine. All girls, girls in bikinis, girls in lingerie, girls in sexy cosplay, girls posing on beds, on beaches and bathrooms, girls with names like Bella Dex, Jessica Hot, Mia Doll. Every photo had thousands of likes, and underneath comments full of fire and heart emojis. I gripped the chair. Mike, can you get into his messages? Mike grinned, that hunter's grin. If you want, I can try. But hey, get ready. Sleazebags like him leave traces in the weirdest places. He typed some more. This time it took longer, about 20 minutes. I finished my first beer, then my second. My heart was pounding. In my head, I kept seeing Emma sitting at her window, drinking tea. Bingo, Mike hit a key. Check this out. The screen filled with private messages. The David Private 23 account had messaged at least 20 different girls, not just liking photos. He wrote stuff like, "You're so beautiful. I'm in love with your smile. Can I be your friend? You make my day." I scrolled down, then I saw a name, Jessica. Jessica's profile picture was a blonde girl in a red dress smiling. Her account was public, full of travel photos, bar photos, beach photos. And in the private messages, David and her had been talking for a while. I read, "Hi, I saw your photo in Miami. So pretty. You live there?" "Oh, thanks. I was just visiting with friends." "Are you single?" "Yeah, I am." "Cool. Want to grab coffee sometime? I know a great place." Then the next message, a week later. "Last night was really fun. You're amazing." "I had fun too. When can we meet again?" "I have a business trip this weekend, but next week." Then a message from 3 weeks ago. "When can we meet again? Last night was amazing." I read that line over and over. Last night was amazing. My hands went cold. I remembered that night. 3 weeks ago, David told Emma he had to work late. A big project. He'd be at the office until late. Emma believed him. She even brought him dinner at his office, but he said he was in a meeting, just ran down to grab the food and went right back up. Emma told me that story, all happy. Poor guy worked so hard, I gotta take care of him. But really, he was somewhere with a girl named Jessica, and last night was amazing. I put my beer down, hands shaking. Mike looked at me, serious. "You okay?" I nodded, but I wasn't okay at all. Inside, this wave of anger, disgust, and just sickness was rolling over me. I screenshot everything, message screens, follower lists, comments, everything. Sent it all to my phone. "Mike, you're the best," I said, voice rough. Mike waved it off. "No, just pay me and pizza. But hey, that's all I can do. The rest is up to you and Emma. I just hope she's okay." I drove straight to Emma's. Didn't call, didn't text. When I knocked, it was almost 11 p.m. Emma opened the door in her pajamas, hair messy, eyes a little puffy. She looked surprised. "What are you doing here so late? What's wrong?" I didn't say anything. I walked in, sat on the couch, and pulled out my phone. Emma sat next to me, looking confused. "Look at this," I said, handing her the phone. Emma took it and looked at the screen. Her face went pale. She scrolled and scrolled and scrolled, picture after picture, comment after comment, and then the messages, Jessica. "Last night was amazing." It was... She sank back into the couch, still holding the phone, shaking. She just stared at the screen, saying nothing. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I didn't dare say anything. I just sat there waiting. Then Emma looked up. Her eyes were red, but no tears. She looked at me, her voice weirdly calm. I knew it. I was shocked. You knew? Emma nodded slowly. Not all of this, not the details, but I knew it wasn't just liking friends' photos. I saw the looks, the hidden texts, the business trips where he wouldn't answer his phone. I knew something was wrong, I just didn't have proof. She smiled, a bitter smile, and I didn't want to believe it. She put the phone down on the table, leaned back on the couch, staring at the ceiling. The room was silent, just the hum of the AC. I looked at Emma. She sat there, back straight, eyes on nothing, face blank. But I knew inside her, a storm was raging. Right then I understood something. Sometimes people know the truth for a long time. They see the signs, they feel that something's off, but they choose to stay quiet, choose not to believe, keep telling themselves, I'm probably just overthinking. They just need time to get strong enough to face it. And Emma, after tonight, wouldn't run from it anymore. We thought having proof was enough. But David wasn't the type to give up easily. He started his second act, and this time he dragged everyone into it. That night, I was lying on my couch at home, scrolling through Facebook while waiting for my phone to charge. My mom went to bed early. The house was so quiet you could hear the fridge humming. I scrolled through boring memes, ads, friends posting food pics. Then I saw David's post. I sat straight up, eyes locked on the screen. It was this long, sad post, like he was the main character in some tragic movie. 3 years isn't short. 3 years of loving, worrying, taking care of someone. 3 years of late nights and early mornings of giving in, of trying to build a relationship. And then, because of one little misunderstanding, some innocent texts with friends, I lose everything. Doesn't every guy have female friends? Doesn't everyone have the right to talk to people, to care about others? But some people choose not to understand, not to listen, not to trust. They choose to leave without giving me a chance to explain. So heartbreaking. Thank you for 3 years. Thank you for the memories. I still love you, but if you choose to leave, I have to accept it. I read it over and over. Every time I read it, my blood boiled more. Underneath, dozens of comments. His friends, people I even knew. They wrote, stay strong, man. Don't let this bring you down. Oh, poor you, hang in there. Girls these days get jealous over nothing. And you're such a nice guy. And 3 years isn't easy, but if it's not working, then let it go. It's fate. Stay strong. Someone better will come along. I gripped my phone so hard. My hands were shaking. I screenshot it and sent it to Emma with a message. You seeing this? Emma replied after a few minutes, just one word, yeah. The next morning I went to work but couldn't focus. Every time I opened my computer, I thought about that post, about those comments, about how David was making himself the victim and Emma the bad guy. At lunch, my phone rang. Emma. Hey. Her voice was quiet but weird. People are texting me. Texting what? Our mutual friends checking in on me. They said David looks so sad. They feel so bad for him. They're telling me I should rethink things. They're saying girls shouldn't be so selfish. I jumped up from my desk. What? Who? Which ones? A bunch. Calm down. I'll send them to you. My phone buzzed with messages. I opened them, one after another. What's going on with you and David? He looks so sad. Feels so bad for him. You should sit down and talk. Emma, I saw David's post. Don't be so selfish getting jealous over normal friends. He's really upset. 3 years, that's hard to find. Think about it, Emma. Guys make mistakes, but he apologized. I don't know what happened, but David's post is so sad. Feel for him. If something's going on, just talk about it. Don't just go silent. I read them, hands shaking. This wave of anger just flooded through me. That dog. He not only cheated on Emma, he was making her look like the bad guy to everyone. He was winning with the dirtiest game. I didn't even ask permission from my boss. I grabbed my jacket, ran to my car, and drove straight to Emma's. When she opened the door, she was in her old pajamas, hair messy, face pale. On the table, her phone was lighting up with unread messages. You okay? I asked, out of breath. Emma shook her head, but her eyes were red. She wasn't crying, but I knew she was holding it in tight. She sat on the chair, curled up, arms wrapped around herself. I looked at her, then at the phone buzzing with messages. My blood was on fire. Let me post about him, I yelled. Let me put all the proof out there. Let everyone see the real face of that poor victim guy. I have everything, the secret account, the messages with Jessica, all of it. I ran to my bag, grabbing for my phone, but Emma stood up and grabbed my arm. Wait. I turned to look at her. What? Are you scared? Or do you still care about him? Emma, look what he's doing to you. He's making you the bad guy. Emma shook her head. I'm not scared. But I'm not scared, she said again, her voice so calm it was weird. I just want to do it myself and do it at the right time. I stared at her, confused. What time? Emma let go of my arm. She walked to the window, looking outside. The sky was getting dark, streetlights starting to flicker on. She stood there, quiet for a long time. I just stood behind her, watching her silhouette against the glass. When he thinks he's won, Emma said, her voice soft but clear. When he thinks he's made me the bad guy to everyone. When he sleeps soundly thinking it's all over. That's when I'll speak. A chill went down my spine, not from fear, but because I'd never seen Emma like this. She turned around. Her eyes had this strange light in them, a light I'd never seen in her in 10 years. She wasn't the sweet, easygoing Emma who always smiled and drank chamomile tea anymore. This was a different Emma, sharp, calculating, and completely calm. What are you going to do? I whispered. Emma smiled, a cold smile, no warmth at all. She walked back to the table, picked up her phone, looked at the screen full of unread messages. I'm going to tell the true story, she said, eyes still on the screen. From beginning to end, with proof, with names, with everything he did. She looked up at me, and I'm going to tell it really well. I stood there, staring at my friend. The room was silent. Outside, the city lights came on. In Emma's hand, her phone kept lighting up with messages from all those mutual friends, the ones who believed David's little show. Right then, I didn't understand what she was planning. I didn't know her plan. But I knew one thing. The tiger had woken up, and David had no idea what was coming for him. 3 days later, when the gossip was at its peak, when David started posting pictures of himself, sad and alone at a coffee shop with depressing captions, Emma opened her laptop, and I sat right next to her, watching history happen. 3 days, the longest 3 days of my life. David kept up his poor victim act. A new post every day. One day, a picture of him sitting alone in a coffee shop, staring out the window with this faraway look. Next day, a glass of wine with the caption, "Sometimes you just need to be alone." Next day, a sunset sky with 3 years, and in the end, only memories remain. Friends kept commenting, comforting him, feeling bad for him, checking in on him. And Emma stayed silent. She didn't reply to any messages. She didn't post anything. She just sat in her room, drinking tea, staring out the window, waiting. I was going crazy. Every time I saw a new post from David, my blood boiled. But Emma just said, "Wait a little longer. Let him think he's won." So I waited. Saturday afternoon, as the sun was starting to set, Emma called me. "Come over." I drove over immediately. When I got there, Emma was sitting in front of her computer, holding a cup of chamomile tea. On the table were notes she'd written and her phone full of screenshots. "You ready?" I asked. Emma looked at me. Her eyes lit up with this determined spark. "I've never been more ready." She put her tea down and put her hands on the keyboard. I pulled up a chair next to her and put my hand on her shoulder. Her shoulder was shaking a little, but her back was straight. Emma opened Facebook. She looked at her profile, where her last post was from 3 weeks ago, a picture of flowers. Then she opened her photo folder. One by one, she uploaded them. First picture, David's confession text from 2 a.m. "I'm sorry, I cheated on you. I don't know what else to say." Second picture, the follow list from David Private 23 with over 500 names. All of them were nude models, bikini girls, sexy cosplay accounts. Third picture, David's comments under those girls' photos. "So beautiful. I'm in love. Can I be your friend?" Fourth picture, private messages with a girl named Jessica. "When can we meet again? Last night was amazing." Fifth picture, a screenshot of his call history, all those midnight calls he said were work meetings. Sixth picture, a screenshot of David's Facebook post from a few days ago, that long victim status. Emma paused and read that status again. The corner of her mouth curled up, but it wasn't a smile, it was disgust. Then she started writing the caption. Her fingers typed slowly, one word at a time. I read along on the screen. "This is David's little misunderstanding. These are his just friends. 3 years of silence, 3 years of wondering, is it me? 3 years of trying to believe his promises. But today, I'm speaking up. Thank you everyone for your concern. I just want you all to know the truth." She stopped, read it over once. Then she turned to look at me. "Done?" she said, her voice soft. Her finger hovered over the post button. I held my breath. Emma pressed it. The post went live. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, silence. Then Emma's phone started buzzing. Buzzing nonstop. Bing, 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 bing. Notifications, comments, shares, likes. I stared at the screen, my eyes wide. Comments just kept appearing, one after another, endless. Oh my God, this is shocking. What a jerk! Sharing so everyone knows his real face. Thought he was the victim. Turns out he's the criminal. Stay strong, Emma. Oh, this scumbag, I know him and had no idea. Public share. Comments kept increasing by the second. 10, 20, 50, 100. I looked at the computer clock. Only 5 minutes had passed. 500 shares. 500 shares already, I gasped. Emma didn't say anything. She stared at the screen, her face still cold, but her hand was gripping mine tightly. I knew she was shaking, but it was shaking from nerves, not fear. Friends started tagging David in the post. The same people who'd comforted him days ago were now dead silent. A few quietly deleted their old comments. I saw someone who'd written, "Stay strong, man," now writing, "Can't believe it," under Emma's post. Then Jessica appeared. The blonde girl from the messages, the one from last night was amazing, suddenly commented, "I didn't know he had a girlfriend. He told me he was single. He said he was looking for something serious. I really didn't know. I'm sorry, and thank you for telling me the truth." That comment made everything explode even more. There it is, living proof. What a complete jerk. Emma, we believe you. I looked at Emma. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. She just stared at the screen, at every comment, every word of support. Then Emma's phone buzzed with a long ring. One name appeared, David. Emma looked at me. I looked at her. "Answer it," I said, and put it on speaker. Emma nodded. She hit answer, then speaker. She put the phone on the table between us. "Emma!" David's voice screamed from the speaker. No trace of that sad victim act anymore. "Are you crazy? What did you just post? Take it down now!" Emma looked calmly at the phone. "I posted the truth. What's wrong with that?" "You're destroying me. You're ruining my life." His voice tore through the air. "My friends, my co-workers, everyone is looking at this. Do you know I could lose my job? Do you know I'm losing everything?" Emma looked at me, then back at the phone. Her voice was still calm, ice cold. "You ruined your own life and you're blaming me? I've heard that before." David paused for a second. I could hear him breathing heavily. Then his voice changed. Lower, softer, begging. "Please, just take it down. We can talk. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I'll do anything you want. Just take it down." Emma looked at me and smiled. A small smile. But her eyes had this bright spark. Then she leaned toward the phone and said clearly, one word at a time, "No, David, we have nothing left to say. Goodbye." She hit the end call button. Then she picked up the phone and turned it off. The screen went black. She set the phone down on the table, gently. The room was silent. Just the sound of the fan and the computer notifications still buzzing away. Emma turned to look at me. Then she threw her arms around me. She cried, huge, heaving sobs. But this time, these were tears of relief. I felt her shoulders shaking, her tears soaking my shirt. But this shaking was different from that first night. That night, she shook from shock and pain. This time, she shook because she was finally free. I held her tight, not saying anything, just holding her. After a long time, Emma stopped crying. She sat up, wiped her tears, and looked at me with a smile. Her face was all messy, eyes red, but she was smiling. A real smile. For the first time in days. "Thank you," she said, her voice all croaky. I shook my head. "For what? I didn't do anything. You did everything. You stayed with me. You didn't let me fall apart." I didn't know what to say. I just pulled her in for another hug. On the computer screen, the post was still getting comments and shares. The count had gone over 2,000 shares. But Emma wasn't looking at it anymore. She'd said what she needed to say. I held her, feeling her shake in my arms, and I knew Emma was finally free. Not free from David, but free from the cage called caring what other people think that she'd locked herself in for 3 years. After the post, everything changed. But the hardest hit didn't come from social media. It came from a face-to-face meeting I'll never forget. 2 days after Emma's post, social media was still going crazy. The post had been shared over 10,000 times. David was the talk of everywhere. His old friends wrote posts exposing more. Other girls started speaking up. Jessica even posted a long story detailing her dates with David, including screenshots of messages and photos of them together. David went silent. His main account stopped posting. The secret account disappeared. Emma and I decided to go out. For the first time in over a week, Emma agreed to leave her room. She wore a light yellow, flowery dress, her hair tied up, looking so much brighter. We walked to the coffee shop near our old university, the one we used to hang out at when we were students. The California afternoon sun was golden, a light breeze. Emma ordered chamomile tea, I got black coffee. We sat at an outdoor table, watching students walk by, laughing and talking. "You feeling okay?" I asked. Emma sipped her tea and nodded. "Better than I thought. Funny, isn't it? I thought I'd be sad for so long. Turns out when you finally face the truth, it's so much lighter." I smiled, because you're not beating yourself up anymore. Emma looked at me, her eyes a little red, but her mouth smiling. "Yeah, thanks to you." "Stop it. Thanks to you doing the work. I was just a loudspeaker and a printer for evidence." Emma laughed. Right at that moment, the coffee shop door opened. David walked in. I almost choked on my coffee. I put my cup down, staring at him. Emma saw him too, but her face stayed calm. David looked terrible. Wrinkled clothes, his white shirt all messy, no belt. Hair a mess like he'd just woken up. Dark circles under his eyes, cheeks sunken. He walked straight to our table, pulled out a chair, and sat down without even asking. Emma kept sipping her tea, looking out at the street. "Emma," and David said, his voice all hoarse, like he'd been crying or screaming for days. Emma didn't answer. She put her tea down slowly, then turned to look at him. Her eyes were ice cold, no emotion at all. "I'm sorry," David said. His hands were shaking on the table. "I'm sorry, Emma. I was wrong. I was really wrong." Silence. "I know you don't trust me anymore, but I just want to say, I love you. 3 years isn't 3 days. Can we talk again? Give me one more chance?" I clenched my fists under the table. My blood was boiling, but I held back. This was Emma's thing. I was just here, being her support. Emma stayed silent. She looked at David, straight in his eyes, not blinking. David got nervous from the silence. "I know I hurt you. I know I was stupid, but you know I love you. We can start over." "Shut up." I couldn't hold it anymore. I slammed my hand on the table, making coffee splash everywhere. "Do you even hear yourself, David? You just got exposed with 500 girls on your secret account. You have messages with Jessica. Last night was amazing and all that, and now you come to apologize? What kind of apology still blames her for not paying enough attention to you?" David turned to me, eyes red, but his voice getting sharp. "You shut up. I'm talking to my girlfriend, not you." "Girlfriend?" Emma's voice cut through, ice cold. David turned back to her. "Who are you calling your girlfriend?" Emma asked, her voice still cold, but something flickering in her eyes. David froze. You are... "I was your girlfriend." Emma cut him off. Past tense. David's face went pale, his lips trembled. "Emma, don't say that." "What are you here for?" Emma asked, her voice still flat. David lowered his head. Then suddenly he started crying. Real crying. Tears streaming, shoulders shaking. "I've lost everything, Emma. Friends, job, reputation. People at work look at me like garbage. Clients canceled contracts. I can't go anywhere anymore. Everyone points and whispers." "Oh," Emma just said one word. He just said one word. David looked up at her, eyes wet. "Don't you feel anything for me? 3 years together? Don't you have any feelings left?" Emma looked at him. A long time. Then she spoke slowly, one word at a time, clear and cold. "Remember the first time I asked you about those girls? You called me petty. The second time that you said I didn't trust you. The third time you said it was my fault for not caring about you. You taught me a very good lesson. Never believe anything you say." David tried to interrupt, but Emma held up her hand, signaling him to stop. "And now, you want me to believe this apology? You want me to believe you love me? Yippee. After you told Jessica that last night was amazing?" David stammered. I'm sorry. "Sorry you got caught, or sorry you did it?" Emma asked. David was silent. Emma nodded like she'd just solved a math problem. "Yeah, you don't need to answer. I already know." She stood up, picked up her tea, took one last sip, and set it down. She looked straight into David's eyes one last time. "You said I didn't understand. Well, now I understand very clearly." David stared at her, eyes wide. "Goodbye, David," Emma said. "I hope you live well with the choices you made." She didn't wait for his answer. She turned and walked away. I stood up to follow. But before I left, I leaned down and whispered in David's ear, just loud enough for him to hear. "You know that saying? What goes around comes around. You deserve everything that's happening. Bye." I didn't look back. I followed Emma out of the coffee shop. The afternoon sun was golden and warm. Emma stood there, face up to the sky, eyes closed, taking a deep breath. Then she turned to me, smiling like nothing had ever happened. "I'm starving. Let's get food." I looked at her. In the sunlight, Emma glowed. Her eyes sparkled, but not with tears, with light. The light yellow dress fluttered in the breeze. She stood there, hands on her hips, looking at me, waiting. I laughed. Food at this hour? It's only 4 p.m. So we eat early. I'm starving to death here. She rubbed her stomach, making a sad face. Fine. What do you want? Pizza! That pizza place near our old school. Haven't been there in forever. Get in the car. We walked to where I parked. As I opened the car door for Emma, I looked at her again. She got in the passenger seat, buckled up, still smiling. Right then, watching Emma stand in the sunlight, her face so bright like she'd just dropped a huge weight, I understood. Some people come into your life to teach you a lesson. And some people stay to walk the rest of the road with you. I was proud to be the second one in her life. After that face-off, we thought everything was done. But it turned out the hardest part wasn't facing David. It was facing your own feelings after everything. A few days after we saw David at the coffee shop, Emma got quiet. Not sad quiet, but thinking quiet. She still smiled, still talked normally, but sometimes I'd catch her staring out the window, eyes distant, fingers tracing her teacup. I didn't ask. I knew some things just need time. Then one Saturday morning, my phone rang. Emma calling. You free? Her voice sounded different. Always, what's up? Let's go out. I sat up in bed, rubbing my eyes. Go where? Coffee? Breakfast? Hiking. I thought she was joking. What? Hiking? Are you talking to me right now? Yeah, hiking. Get ready. I'm picking you up. But... Click. She hung up. I stared at my phone, blinking. Hiking? Emma. The girl who gets winded walking up 4 flights of stairs? But I got out of bed anyway and changed. Jeans, t-shirt, sneakers. I ran a comb through my hair, brushed my teeth, and sat waiting. 30 minutes later, a honk outside. I ran out, opened the door, and froze. Emma's car was there, and on the roof, a huge hiking backpack. Emma sat inside, sunglasses on, smiling. You're serious? I pointed at the backpack. Emma laughed. Serious, get in, stop stalling. I shook my head, but got in. As I buckled up, I looked at her. Do you even know how to hike? Last time I saw you exercise was in high school gym class, and you faked a leg injury just to sit out. Emma smiled but didn't answer. She just hit the gas and drove off. 2 hours later, we left the city behind. Houses got sparse, replaced by green fields and hills in the distance. Emma drove to a suburban area with a hill that wasn't too high, but high enough to make you tired. After parking, Emma opened the trunk and pulled out 2 small backpacks, handing me one. Inside, water, snacks, random stuff. Ready? Emma asked. I looked at the hill ahead. The trail twisted up, not too steep, but still a workout. Ready, but seriously, tell me, why hiking all of a sudden? Emma didn't answer. She just started walking, slow and steady. We climbed. The sun was hot, sweat soaking our backs. I was breathing hard, but Emma just kept walking, not saying anything, eyes forward. Sometimes she'd stop for water, then keep going. Almost 40 minutes later, we reached the top. The wind blew cool, washing away all the tiredness. I stood there, mouth open, looking down. The city looked like a tiny painting, tall buildings like matchsticks, roads like threads. In the distance, car lights sparkled like a galaxy. Emma flopped down on a big rock, breathing hard, face red from sun and wind. Then suddenly she burst out laughing. What's funny? I asked, sitting next to her. I'm laughing because I didn't think I could make it. She shook her head, still laughing. My legs are shaking like crazy. I laughed with her. Then why'd you drag me hiking? You could have chosen a movie, dinner, shopping. Hiking is last on my priority list. Emma stopped laughing. She looked out into the distance, her eyes becoming distant. Because I needed to feel like I could do some things. Her voice was light as wind. To overcome something. After 3 years, I felt like a snail, always hiding in my shell. Afraid to move, afraid to speak, afraid to bother anyone. I stayed quiet, the wind blew Emma's hair flying. Hiking is hard, Emma continued, but I love the feeling when you reach the top, like, I did it, I made it. She turned to look at me, her eyes sparkled. You know, for 3 years, I never yelled, I never spoke loud. I was afraid of making noise, afraid of being noticed, afraid David would say I was too loud, too petty, that I didn't understand. I took her hand, like, and no. Emma stood up. She walked to the edge, where you could see the whole city below. She stood there, back straight, hands on her hips. Now, I want to be loud, she said, her voice louder. I want to live. Then she cupped her hands around her mouth and screamed as loud as she could. Ah! The scream echoed out, spreading far, bouncing off distant cliffs. She screamed again and again until she ran out of breath. She turned to me, panting, face glowing. You try! I felt embarrassed. I looked around, even though there was no one else. Nah, that's weird. Oh, just try. No one can see. I stood up. I cupped my hands around my mouth, took a deep breath, and screamed. Ah! Not as loud as Emma, but okay. Then I screamed again, this time louder, with everything I had. David, you jerk. Emma burst out laughing so hard tears came. She held her stomach laughing, then screamed too. David, you're trash. You're a liar. You're garbage. We screamed into the air, screaming out all the frustration we'd held in for so long, screaming until our throats hurt, until we had no breath left, then collapsed on the ground, looking at each other, laughing like two crazy people. Laughing until we cried. Real tears, but not sad tears. Tears of relief, of freedom. Emma leaned her head on my shoulder. We sat there, watching the sunset slowly fall. The sun was red, painting the whole sky, orange and pink. Clouds drifted lazily. The wind blew cool. A long silence. Thank you, Emma whispered, her voice like wind. I looked down at her, her head on my shoulder. For what? For not leaving me, she said, eyes still looking into the distance. For coming at 3 a.m., for yelling at David, for sitting with me those nights I couldn't sleep, for going hiking with me even though you hate exercise. I laughed softly. Yeah, I do hate it, but for you, I can do it. Thank you for being you. Emma's voice choked up. I didn't answer. I just put my arm around her and squeezed gently. The wind blew, hair flying, the sunset red at the edge of the sky. The city below started lighting up, sparkling like fallen stars. We sat there, not saying anything else. Just the wind, just the sunset, just two friends leaning on each other. Sitting on that hill that day, watching the light fade, I thought, sometimes healing doesn't need a therapist, doesn't need medicine, doesn't need expensive advice, just a friend, a hill, and a really loud scream. While we were up on that hill living our best lives, down below, David was tasting the bitter fruit he planted himself. A few weeks after our hiking trip, life for me and Emma slowly got back to normal. I went to work, Emma went to school. We still hung out sometimes, grabbed coffee, had dinner, watched movies. But one thing was totally different. Emma laughed more, talked more, and her eyes were brighter. One Friday afternoon, I stopped by a coffee shop near my old workplace to get a drink. While I was waiting, I spotted someone from high school sitting by the window. Jenny. We weren't close, but we hung out in the same group sometimes back in the day. Jenny, I waved. She looked up and smiled. Alex, long time no see. Sit down, let's catch up. I pulled up a chair and ordered another coffee. We chatted for a bit about work and life. Then Jenny lowered her voice and leaned in. You know David, right? I raised an eyebrow. Yeah, why? Jenny laughed, and that kind of half-sympathetic, half-satisfied laugh. Everyone at my school and his work knows about the whole thing now. Oh man, you have no idea. Everywhere he goes, people point and whisper. I leaned in, curious, and tell me everything. Jenny started talking, all excited like she was telling a funny story. So at one time, he walked into this coffee shop near where I work. It's a popular spot for students. The second he walked in, the staff recognized him. They started whispering, look, there's David, the guy who got exposed with 500 girls. People sitting nearby turned to stare. His face went red. He quickly ordered a coffee and left before he even finished it. I burst out laughing. Really? Really? And that's not all. Jenny kept going. Another time, he was at the supermarket and ran into a friend of that girl, Jessica. She looked at him and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, oh, handsome David? Found anyone new yet or still sliding into 500 DMs at once? He scurried away like a scared mouse. I was laughing so hard my stomach hurt. Tears were streaming down my face. I remembered those days when David posted his sad victim statuses, making himself out to be the poor guy. I remembered all the comforting comments, and now watching him become a joke to everyone, I felt like karma was real. Back then he loved playing the victim, I told Jenny. Now he's a real victim. Victim of his own stupid game. That afternoon I called Emma and told her everything. Emma listened, was quiet for a moment, then said, I don't feel bad for him, but I don't feel happy either. I just feel nothing. You don't feel even a little satisfied? I asked. No, Emma said softly. He did what he did to me, and I already dealt with it. What happens to him now isn't my problem anymore. I got it. Emma didn't carry David in her heart anymore. Not love, not hate. He was just a name from the past. But David's story didn't end there. A while later, I was scrolling through Instagram and saw a familiar name. David. He started following and messaging other girls again. But this time, the reaction was totally different. One girl, after getting his message, screenshot it and posted it on her story with the caption, "This guy again? Stay away from me." Another girl straight up commented under one of his photos, "Oh, look, it's the 500 girl boyfriend. Don't bother me." I read that and literally rolled off my couch laughing. I screenshot it and sent it to Emma. She just replied, "Yeah, saw it." Society's funny that way. You do something, people remember. And when you fall, they're ready to kick you while you're down. I didn't feel bad for him, but that's just how karma works. Then one day I noticed David's accounts were gone. No Facebook, no Instagram, nothing. He deleted all his social media. Vanished from everyone's sight. A few months later, I heard through a friend, David changed jobs, moved to a new place, started over in a different city. I told Emma about it. She was sitting reading a book, holding her cup of chamomile tea. She listened, just nodded, eyes still on her page. "Hope he learned something," Emma said calmly. "Not for him, but for the girls he might meet in the future." I looked at her. "You don't hate him?" Emma put her tea down and looked up at me. Her eyes were clear, no trace of anything. I did hate him, but now there's no room for him in my heart anymore. Not love, not hate. He's just a name from the past. She picked up her book and kept reading. I sat there, watching my friend. Emma sat on the couch, afternoon light streaming through the window, making her hair shine. She wore a white sweater and jeans, legs curled up on the couch. Her tea steamed lightly on the table. The book she was reading had a soft blue cover. She was calm, at peace, like no storm had ever passed through. I suddenly remembered that 3 a.m. night, when I saw Emma standing at her door, face all crumpled, eyes red, shaking in her wrinkled dress. I remembered those days she curled up on the chair, holding cold tea, staring into space. I remembered the tears, the sobs, the trembling. And now, watching her sit here, reading, drinking tea, my heart felt so warm. People say time heals all wounds. But I think it's not time. It's how you choose to live after the wound that really heals you. And Emma chose to live really well. 1 year later. Exactly 1 year since that phone call at 3 a.m. 1 year to learn how to stand up again, to learn how to love yourself, and to realize that the most precious thing isn't romantic love, but something quiet and steady. Friendship. Sunday afternoon, golden sunlight spread softly over the paths in the Central Park. Me and Emma walked slowly on the green grass. Kids ran around laughing, a few flew kites, their giggles carried by the wind. Couples sat on benches, holding hands, whispering to each other. Emma wore a bright yellow flowery dress, her hair tied up, showing off her glowing face. She looked so different from a year ago. No more dark circles, no more sad expression. Now her eyes sparkled, her lips always smiling. And me? Still the same old gray hoodie, jeans, baseball cap? Some things never change. Look at them. Emma pointed at a couple sitting on the grass, the guy's head in the girl's lap, her stroking his hair, both smiling at each other. Aren't they cheesy? Emma made a face, but her eyes were laughing. I laughed too. Yeah, cheesy, but kind of sweet though. Emma turned to look at me. Do you want a relationship like that? I thought for a moment. The sun hit my face, making me squint. Yeah, who doesn't? But I'm scared. Emma stopped. She stood right in front of me, blocking my path. Scared of what? I looked down, kicking a small pebble with my shoe. Scared of meeting another David. You know, there are a lot of jerks out there, and I don't know if I'd be smart enough to see it early. Emma didn't say anything. She just looked at me, her eyes soft. Then she put her hand on my shoulder and squeezed. The next time you've got me, her voice was quiet but solid, I'll spot the signs earlier. I'll pull you out of that hole before you even fall, and if you do fall, I'll be there to catch you. I looked at her, my eyes got a little watery. Promise? Promise. Emma held out her pinky. Pinky swear. I hooked my pinky with hers and shook. Pinky swear. We kept walking and found a long bench under a big tree. We sat down and Emma pulled 2 water bottles from her bag, handing me one. So refreshing. I took a sip and looked around. Emma drank 2, then started talking. Her voice was excited. I've been thinking about the future. After I graduate, I want to open a small counseling space. I turned to look at her. Oh, seriously? Yeah, nothing fancy, just a small room in a quiet corner somewhere, cozy with tea and snacks. I want to help people who were like me back then. I listened quietly. People who know they're hurt, know something's wrong, but don't know what to do. People who need someone to tell them, you deserve better. This isn't your fault. You're not crazy. You just love the wrong person. Emma talked, her eyes looking into the distance. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, painting light patterns on her face. I looked at my friend, feeling so proud. You can do it. I believe in you. Emma turned and smiled. What about you? Any plans? Besides wearing hoodies all year round? I laughed and lightly punched her shoulder. I'm still drawing, and I'll have a small exhibit coming up in the district. You'll come, right? Emma's eyes went wide. An exhibit? Really? Why didn't you tell me sooner? I just found out last week. A friend of Mike's works at a gallery, saw my paintings, and invited me to join. That's amazing. Emma hugged me so tight I almost dropped my water. I'll be there, and I'm buying all your paintings. I pushed her away, laughing. Buying all of them? You rich now? Not rich, Emma grinned, eyes sparkling. But for you, I'll save up. We sat quietly for a while, watching the world around us. A family walked by, parents holding two little kids' hands. An old man sat on a bench far away reading a newspaper. Pigeons swooped down to peck at dropped crumbs. Hey, Emma said softly. Yeah? Thank you. Again. I turned to look at her. How many times is that now? Emma laughed, a little embarrassed. Last time, promise. I nodded. Okay, I accept your last thank you. Another quiet moment passed. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves above. But Emma, I said, my voice dropping lower. Yeah? If you ever go through something again, whether it's 3 a.m. or 3 p.m., I'll still come. Always. Emma turned to look at me. Her eyes were a little wet, but she smiled. A smile as warm as the sun. She didn't say anything. She just leaned her head on my shoulder, exactly like that 3 a.m. night a year ago. But this time, she wasn't shaking from pain, wasn't sobbing from hurt. This time, there was only warmth, only peace. I put my arm gently around her shoulder. The sun began to set in the distance. The sky turned orange and red, glowing like a painting. In front of us, the path stretched out, lined with tall trees casting long shadows in the evening light. A few joggers passed by, smiling at the two young girls sitting with their heads together. Emma whispered softly, almost to herself, I'm really okay now, you know. I didn't look down, just kept sitting there. I know. Because of you. I know. Emma laughed and lightly punched my shoulder. So full of yourself. I laughed too. Yeah, I am. So what? We both laughed. Our laughter rang out in the evening air, mixing with the wind, the birds, the distant sounds of kids playing. Sitting there watching the sunset fade, I thought back to that 3 a.m. night a year ago. About the tears, the shaking, the anger. About David and the lesson he left behind. About the days that felt impossible to get through. And I realized something. In this life, some things come to teach you pain, but some things stay to teach you love. For me, Emma was the thing that stayed. And we're okay. No, we're more than okay. We're home to each other.